A country with beautiful ecology, where you can drink water from the tap, where the climate is to everyone's taste. It stretches from north to south for 4,000 kilometers. Here you can find both desert and tropics, and tundra. On the east is the Atlantic Ocean. On the west are the Andes. There are whales and penguins. There are armadillos and wild ostriches. In the capital of this country, an air conditioner is needed for 1.5 months a year. Heating is needed for 1.5 months. The rest of the time, the temperature is ideal. The last time it snowed here was 15 years ago, in July of 2007, on the Independence Day of this country. This is a country that has survived 8 defaults, where inflation is constantly growing, it doesn't bother anyone, and has become a norm of life. Trade unions here calmly strike large corporations, and in the country's history there are dark pages of dictatorships and military coups. Did you guess? The talk will be about Argentina. Usually not much is known about it. Argentine tango, steaks, wine, and football. This country has produced globally renowned 20th century figures like Eva Perón, Che Guevara, and Diego Maradona. Occupying a total area of 280 million kilometers, Argentina is one of the largest countries in the world, the second largest in Latin America after Brazil. The name of the country comes from a Latin word, which translates as silver. The first European settlers thought that Argentina was rich in silver, but this rumor was not confirmed. In the 20th century, Great Britain played a significant role in the recovery of the Argentine economy. Thanks to its investments, the country developed its railway infrastructure and agricultural industry. In turn, Argentina had the opportunity to send its goods over a vast distance. The English, in turn, saw Argentina as a center of their influence on the continent and a way to provide the countries of the British Commonwealth with cheap agricultural goods. Today, Argentina stands out among the countries of Latin America with its relatively high level of agriculture, which not only fully satisfies its own food needs, but also goes for export in large volumes. Agricultural lands occupy 138 million hectares in the country, but only a fifth of them are cultivated. The remaining areas are occupied by meadows and pastures. Livestock plays a leading role in the country's agriculture. Its main branch is the breeding and raising of large horned cattle, mainly for meat. Argentina has one of the highest ratios of large horned cattle per capita globally. Everything in Argentina is changing at the speed of light. The government, laws, the value of money, Argentine defaults, and inflation have become commonplace. The history of this country resembles economic swings. Just take a look. In 1895, Argentina became the wealthiest country in the world in terms of gross domestic product per capita, a whole $5,786 more than the United States of America, France, Switzerland, and Great Britain. From 1880 to 1905, Argentina's economy grew at an average rate of 8% and increased unbelievably 7 whole times during this period. And at the same time, there were 8 defaults in Argentina's history, the largest of which occurred at the beginning of the 2000 years. The external debt per Argentine, including the elderly and young people, exceeded $3,600. And it was precisely to Argentina that a large part of the assets and leadership of the Third Reich were evacuated after their defeat in the Second World War. From the age of 43, Bormann began to create hundreds of corporations beyond the Reich's borders, into which Nazi money was invested, mainly party gold. This task was solved as part of an operation called Flight of the Eagle. Accounts were opened in foreign banks, investment funds were created in foreign companies. For example, in the 43rd to 45th years, more than 200 German companies registered their branches in Argentina. Monetary and other assets, such as patents for inventions, were transferred through subsidiary companies in Switzerland, Spain, and Portugal to Argentine branches of German banks. Then these funds were directed to German companies operating in Argentina, for example, to the car manufacturing company Mercedes-Benz, the first factory built outside Germany. The same companies after 1945 became a source of employment for Nazi war criminals. For example, Adolf Eichmann worked at the Mercedes-Benz factory in a town on the outskirts of Buenos Aires under the name Ricardo Clemente from 1955 to May 11, 1966, until he was captured by agents of the Israeli intelligence service Mossad. More about the evacuation of the Third Reich in our separate issue. We recommend watching. It will be interesting. And now let's continue with Argentina. Many of us have heard the resonant word junta. As a rule, it is used in relation to kleptocratic states with rampant corruption. The main meaning of the word junta is a group of military personnel who seized power by force as a result of a coup and who ruled dictatorially using methods of terror. It was precisely such a standard junta that became the military dictatorship in Argentina in the 1976 to 83 years. Argentina loved the military until the 80s, and the military often found themselves at the head of the country. So, one of the most popular leaders of Argentina, Juan Perón, came to power as a result of another military coup. In the year 1943, for some time he ruled, successfully re-elected as president during a national vote. However, in 1955, due to economic problems, he was overthrown and expelled from the country. In 73, he returned to the restless. Third, he returned to the restless Argentina and was again elected president in democratic elections. However, he passed away in 1974. His wife, Isabel Perón, inherited power, but proved to be a weak politician in a country torn by contradictions. Various revolutionary organizations and militarized groups fought each other and the government for power and influence. Attempts at coups, terrorist attacks, kidnappings of people, and armed confrontations were commonplace in Argentina. Suddenly, on the 24th of March, 1976, all regular television and radio broadcasts stopped, and a military march began to play, followed by an address to the Argentinians. They were informed that the power was now under the control of the military, and citizens must strictly follow the requirements of the army, police, and other security services. A period began that was later called the Dirty War. The leaders of Argentina themselves called the years from 1976 to 1983 the process of national reorganization. A large part of the Argentines enthusiastically welcomed the arrival of the military to power. The junta stopped the escalating civil conflict. The new rulers announced a program of national revival. As mentioned above, attempts and abductions of people were not an exceptional phenomenon even before the process of national reorganization. However, after the coup of 1976, the scale of repression overshadowed everything that had been before. The new power began with a sharp restriction of citizens' rights and freedoms. Free exit from the country was prohibited, military tribunals were introduced, and the death penalty from the age of 16. Officially, all this was declared as measures against the communist threat and sympathizing communists. In reality, anyone whose views diverged from the official government ideology became enemies. On the night of the coup, hundreds of workers, students, political and trade union activists disappeared. Special attention was paid to the youth who participated in political actions, who were considered unreliable and lost for the country. Thus, not long before the coup, in the city of La Plata, local school children and students successfully campaigned for a discount on public transport fares for students. On the night of September 16th to 17th, 1976, masked individuals targeted the most active school children. Two of the teenagers were only 16 years old. They were beaten on the spot and, without letting them dress, were taken with their eyes bound to the underground center of Arana in La Plata. Terrorizing the population became a daily routine. Police raids took place in randomly selected houses. Police or military could stop any car, beat the passengers, and let them go without any explanation. And if a person was suspected of having subversive views, he was, without exaggeration, doomed. One of the most terrifying episodes of the fight against the country's enemies were the so-called death flights. After long bouts of torture and starvation, the prisoners were told they were being transferred to a hospital. Victims, sometimes still on the ground, sometimes already in flight, were drugged with powerful substances, after which their unconscious bodies were thrown from airplanes and helicopters into the ocean. Typically, a flight included 2 pilots, 3 officers, and a doctor. This is what the planes looked like that were most often used in death flights in the year 2013. 68 participants of these flights ended up on the dock accused of killing almost 800 citizens of Argentina. 29 of them received life sentences, 19 from 8 to 25 years in prison. The rest were acquitted. Similar trials have been held since 1985. During one of such trials, the defendant Alfredo Astis, a former third-rank captain of the Argentine Navy Special Forces, shouted, "I will never apologize for defending the motherland." Traditional methods such as large sports events were used to unite the population, typical for such regimes. In 1978, Argentina held a victorious World Cup for its national team. The military did not bypass the conquest of indigenous Argentine territories. In April of 1982, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, which belonged to Great Britain. The war lasted 2.5 months and ended with Argentina's defeat. However, Argentina still considers them its own. In the country, streets and stadiums are named in honor of the islands. Billboards on the roads proclaim that the Malvinas Islands, as they are called in Spanish, will be Argentine. Don't even think about uttering the word Falklands in Argentina or remembering their possession by Argentina. The consequences could be sad. But it's time to return to life in modern Argentina. On the economic arena here, in addition to employers and workers, there are also very strong trade unions. The state does not take away business, but it regulates it very strongly. The worker has more rights than the employer. It's almost impossible to fire a person. Business here is not taken away, it is not given to checks. But if you are a large corporation, you compete here not so much with other corporations as with trade unions. They can say, "This year you are raising salaries by 50%. The company says, "What? And you?" There was 40% inflation. Raise it by 50 to get a bonus. Otherwise, strikes. In this case, the government sides with the trade unions. What happens when wages are always raised to match inflation? Correct, inflation doesn't stop, it only grows. But Argentinians have gotten used to inflation. Well, cafes have to write the cost of food in the menu with a simple pencil. Well, you don't remember the prices of products. It's unrealistic to remember them. They change every day. But if you receive your income in dollars, you don't worry at all. And the local population is also used to salaries being indexed. So the laws of economics that we were taught in school and institutes don't work very well here. High inflation doesn't bother anyone. Everyone is happy with life. Well, except for transnational corporations, for which there are very high taxes here, 40% for each employee. At the same time, small business owners only pay 9% in taxes. Of course, there's no IKEA here, but in Argentina they have their own factories for producing phones, and they have their own car, television, and so on assembly lines. Free social services, independent media, a completely independent court, and a very unstable national currency. This is a lifestyle. It's paranoia. And also in the Argentine Constitution, it is said that every citizen has the right to free health care and education. And, what's even more important, there is a special 20th article of the Constitution, according to which foreigners in the country have the same rights as citizens. After all, at some point everyone in Argentina were immigrants, so those who arrive are not limited in any way. They can feel like full-fledged Argentinians, and getting citizenship is relatively easy. As a result, free health care, including for foreign tourists, is in demand. And they will treat cancer and replace a kidney for free. Imagine that young people from India often come here to undergo human immunodeficiency virus therapy for free. Another plus is free education, including for foreigners, starting from kindergarten to university. Upon arriving in Argentina, you can immediately enroll in any university. In neighboring countries like Brazil, Chile, Colombia, education is very expensive. That's why many people come here, rent a good place to live, and get the best education, especially in medicine. Imagine that for parents it turns out to be cheaper than paying for their children's education in their own country. The universities are top-notch. For instance, the University of Buenos Aires ranks higher than Moscow State University. Anyone can get in there. and they take everyone, including foreigners. But not everyone can finish it. Only a few % make it to graduation, those who really study. The competition here is not at the admission stage, but at the learning stage. Often the argument is made that Argentina is a very dangerous country, but according to UN statistics, the country is roughly on the same level as Russia. For example, yes, it's more dangerous here than in Europe, but the inhabitants here are not Europeans. They beautifully understand how to behave in unfavorable areas and in which cases it is better to cross the road. Yes, there are more robberies here than in the Russian Federation, but they won't kill you. They'll just rob you and run away. In 2014, cameras with facial recognition technology were installed in the capital city. In the first 8 hours of operation, they caught 7 wanted criminals. In the city districts, these cameras are now everywhere and they really work. Argentina is now considered one of the safest countries in South America. Here it is, the unusual and contradictory Argentina, the reality of life. What does it remind you of more? Commonwealth of Independent States country or European? Write in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episodes on our channel.